Perfect. Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. I'd just like to start by thanking and acknowledging all my colleagues involved in the work that I'm going to kind of try and summarise in this brief presentation. So yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about sustainable and healthy cities. I'll start with a brief introduction of the topic and the motivation for the work, and then briefly describe a relevant project, the Complex Urban Systems for Sustainability and Health project, CUSSH, funded by the Wellcome Trust. And I'll spend a little bit of time talking about the programme theory for that project. I think that our work developing the programme theory has helped us as a very large collaborative group to think through exactly what type of actions we're going to undertake in the research and what change we therefore might expect as a result of those actions. And I'll then just briefly give a couple of examples of from two of the cities involved in the CUSSH project, Kisumu in Kenya and from London in the UK, and then I'll just end by briefly summarising. So in terms of what the motivation was for this work, by almost any objective measure, success in meeting key environmental and associated health challenges has at best been rather limited. And the climate system is just one of 9 planetary boundaries that are in danger of being transgressed, with serious implications for all countries. But there are potential substantial benefits from climate action, not only because of the benefit of reducing future impacts from climate change, but also because of the more immediate co-benefits for health of the transition to a low carbon economy. So whilst there's abundant evidence really that the future of the health and natural systems will be decided by decisions on urban development, really opportunities to grasp these potential multiple benefits associated with policy and infrastructure investments are perhaps rather poorly understood and frequently overlooked. So the CUSSH project, along with many other projects obviously, is aiming to assess opportunities to implement relevant policies and interventions linking health and environmental sustainability, with a particular emphasis on climate change mitigation. So CUSSH is a 5-year research project. As I mentioned, it's funded by the Wellcome Trust, and it's due to end in 2023. And its, I suppose, rather ambitious aim is to support cities in attempting to bring about these transformative citywide changes with regards to environmental quality, sustainability, population health, and health equity, and to try to develop integrated policies which address all of these issues. It's a large multi-partner consortium, and we're also working in close partnership with 6 partner cities, which I'll describe shortly. It's built on 3 main components. Firstly, that we hope we've assembled a team that's capable of assembling and bringing together relevant cutting-edge scientific evidence. But we acknowledge, of course, that the provision of that scientific evidence alone is not likely to be particularly useful in terms of achieving impact. And so we're working in the CUSSH project via a framework of participatory research. And again, I'll say more of that at the moment, but working very closely with stakeholders in cities in order to try to make sure that the research is as relevant as possible. And then thirdly, the main component is to recognise that cities are complex systems. And so we're attempting to formalise the treatment of that complex system nature of cities in the CUSSH project. So I suppose what we're doing is really kind of testing what the value of bringing together these 3 main components might be to different types of cities internationally. I mentioned systems there. Why do we think systems thinking is so important? We've given this example previously, but if we are looking at policies which are attempting to address energy efficiency with respect to climate change, then I suppose there's a growing body of evidence now that these policies are likely to be less successful if they are rather have a single policy focus. That is, if they're not considering other aspects in a wider systems context, they are less likely to achieve their primary goal, and also more likely to lead to negative unintended consequences and not achieve and maximize the co-benefits that are associated with those policies. So considering these other aspects of this particular system, for example, I suppose our thesis is you're more likely to be able to achieve more integrated policies, which, as I said, reduce unintended consequences, maximize co-benefits, and increase the chances of the primary aim of that policy to be achieved. So this concept of systems thinking permeates throughout the CUSSH project. In terms of the the challenges that are faced by cities, then in the CUSSH project, you can see on the left here, this is a picture of Nairobi in Kenya, attempting to demonstrate this very stark contrast between very poor areas in Nairobi and the relatively more affluent areas. So it's addressing both the local environmental imperatives, and these will differ city by city, but also trying to make sure that policies address global challenges such as global warming. And we're really trying to address three interlinked challenges regarding to build sustainable cities. And those three challenges are reducing the environmental footprint of cities, increasing the resilience to environmental change of those cities, and at the same time promoting and protecting health. So we're really trying to address these interlinked challenges. So I mentioned the CUSSH team is a large team. It's formed of a very large international collaboration. And I mentioned that we're also working very closely with 6 partner cities. And these are the cities. There's 2 cities in Europe, London and Rennes, 2 cities in Kenya, Nairobi and Kisumu, and 2 in China, Beijing and Ningbo. So this matrix of cities was chosen to try to allow us to consider contrasts in scale of cities, different governance systems, and different local environmental challenges in the cities. So we have a series of very contrasting cities, which, whilst we hope very useful, presents lots of challenges itself in planning the work in the cities and also implementing it while maintaining close connections with the wide range of different types of stakeholders in those cities. So I mentioned the program theory earlier on, and what we've tried to do in the program theory, which has really taken us a couple of years of quite intense conversations amongst this very wide collaborative group, it really sets down what we are doing that we hope will lead to city health and sustainability, improved health and sustainability, the action model, and also a change model and the broader things that we hope might change as a result of what we do. And I think because the project is so ambitious, we've tried to very carefully and rigorously work through this to set down what we, all of the actions that we propose to do, and all the changes that we hope will result from that. So this next slide, I'm not going to go through all of the detail in this, but it's really just kind of setting out in diagrammatic form those different models. So the action model on the left, these different actions that we're proposing in each of the cities to work our way through, with the ultimate goal of achieving at the end there the more sustainable and healthy cities as a result. And on the right, the change model, working in a transdisciplinary way, or attempting to move towards that way of working. What changes in people, processes and policy, practice and research do we hope will result from the work in CUSSH? And of course, doing this enables us to have a very sound foundation for enabling us to evaluate the work as we both move through the project and end it. And we're now very much into the evaluation phase of the project. We've got a couple of years left to run on the project, but we've started that work obviously as we work through the project rather than waiting at the end. So we hope that this program theory gives us a very good framework to very carefully set down how we propose to work and what we hope to achieve. Part of that then informs our approach to city engagement, and we've tried in each of the partner cities to work through this type of process where we begin by having conversations with cities to understand what are the priorities, plans and targets, and to understand those priorities. And then producing via the large team, the CUSSH team, appropriately tailored evidence via modelling work, and to try to communicate and engage with the group of stakeholders to enable us initial insights to inform further communications. And again, I mentioned the systems work here. We're using a process called participatory system dynamics via a series of workshops with key stakeholders in the cities to initially build qualitative maps of these interconnected systems, and then where appropriate and where the data supports it to then also undertake some quantitative modelling to be able to hopefully usefully inform what the impacts of different policy options might be in those cities and in different settings. And then informed by that evidence to also incorporating behaviour change science to try to understand what the most appropriate set of interventions might be in those particular cities and in those different areas. And as I mentioned, thinking at all stages about possible evaluation of the processes and the implementation of the work. So the first brief example I'd like to give is relates to Kisumu, one of the cities in Kenya, obviously, that I mentioned. And this relates to the waste management in Kisumu County. And we went through that process that I've just mentioned, a whole series of workshops over quite a long period of time with a whole body of stakeholders in the city to try to identify what was the most one of the pressing and appropriate challenges for the CUSSH project to engage with, and waste management was selected by those group of stakeholders. And then the team of people within CUSSH have now been working in close engagement with the stakeholders to work through and understand what the benefits of interventions with regard to waste management might be. So it is a big issue in Kisumu, a huge amount of waste produced each day with only a relatively small percentage of that collected, and the rest accumulates or is burned, causing significant environmental and health challenges. However, due to the composition of the waste, high percentage of organic food waste, there's an opportunity to recycle that waste into biogas, and therefore having the extra benefit, the co-benefit of enabling cleaner fuel to be used in the homes in Kisumu. So again, a lot of information on this slide here. This just gives, I suppose, a schematic overview of the system dynamics modelling that Kavi Dianati and led on, but a whole group of, large group of researchers from the CUSSH project have been involved with. And this just tries to address each of these main areas. So looking at the waste collection sector, understanding how that could translate into useful production of biogas, what impact it will have in relation to landfill and the scattered waste sector, but really trying to simulate different future waste management systems with that focus on organic waste to biogas initiatives, and to consider the impact of these possible interventions on both greenhouse gas emissions, but also on health outcomes. So we're able to then, with that modelling work, try to indicate what the possible savings are for greenhouse gas emissions, as I mentioned, via different policy scenarios. So household switching to biogas, the ban on burning, recycling organic waste, and then also importantly, the synergy that arises from the implementation of all these policies together. And we are also then able to combine the modelling of the greenhouse gas emission reductions with an understanding and hopefully making useful estimates of the likely reduction in PM2.5 particulate concentrations under different scenarios, and also what therefore the impact on health there would be from that. So this really, I think, hopefully usefully demonstrates the whole of that process in the CUSSH project. And then we are looking for ways now to be able to help us to pilot and implement these interventions. And we have a concept note prepared for the Green Climate Fund to hopefully allow us to apply for quite substantial funding to implement this on the ground via partnership with UNDP and the Treasury in Kenya. The second example I'd just like to briefly run through is the craft tool that we've developed in the CUSSH project, the Cities Rapid Assessment Framework tool. And we've applied that to both London and Rennes, but I'll just briefly mention how we've applied it to the setting of London. The tool is intended to provide very rapid estimates of the effects of different policy options, again with regards to reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, but also the associated impacts on health with those different policy options. So it's intended to be rapid. We acknowledge we have other tools which are more detailed and will allow different types of analysis, but this is intended to be a rapid first scan through the different policy options to understand where the most effective interventions might be. Time doesn't really permit me to go through in full detail all the aspects of how the tool has been constructed, but essentially we've identified the different types of policy that we'd like the tool to address, the different types of environmental impacts that we would like to consider, and you can see the different types of pollution, indoor environmental quality aspects considered, etc. there under the environmental impact section, and then also the different types of health impacts that it is considering. I won't go in through detail through the outputs, but if I just go back one slide, just a note at the bottom there, we recently published this on the Wellcome Open research, and it's in the process of being kind of openly reviewed on there at the moment. So please do have a look at that if you're more interested in the details. So we looked at 10 kind of strategic policies for London, and if you can see my mouse in these different coloured policies here, so active travel, heat pumps, grid decarbonisation, etc. there, green space. And we made estimates using the CRAFT tool of changes due to those 10 key policies on indoor PM2.5, for example, outdoor PM2.5, and greenhouse gas emissions, and also on impact of temperatures, indoor temperatures due to these changes. So that was then coupled with the estimated impact on health of those changes in exposures, and we were able to quantify, in this case with a focus on mortality, the decrease or increase in the number of deaths associated with those policies as an estimate. So in summary then, as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, what we're trying to do is to test what cities find useful in attempting to move towards these huge transformative changes that are needed in cities to transform these aspects of sustainability and health. And we're trying to use these three main components to understand how useful they are in enabling that transformation to occur. And we hope that via the programme theory, which sets out what we expect to contribute, we will see changes in people, so changes in individuals involved, researchers, policymakers and citizens, generally relating to enhanced knowledge, improved skills and increased capacity, changes in processes employed with the programme, changes involved in the process employed by the stakeholders, networking, collaboration, participation, etc. Then importantly, changes in their policy, practice and research, in organisations, institutional and disciplinary changes, including, of course, interests and impact on the decisions that are taken by key stakeholders in the cities. So thank you very much for your attention, and that's the end of my presentation.